The Asia-Pacific region has long benefited from pro-growth policies, foreign investment, and a strong labor force. Millions of people have been lifted out of poverty, but the gains have come at a cost, especially for human rights. In some countries, economic growth has been accompanied by significant human rights abuses by business operations. In the past, responsibility for addressing human rights abuses by business operations has been the subject of fierce debates. All that changed in 2011 with the introduction of the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights that were unanimously adopted by the Human Rights Council. The Guiding Principles provide a framework to address and improve human rights standards in the business sector. They define the state's duty to protect human rights in business operations, a business's responsibility to respect human rights, and for both to provide remedies for when violations occur. The Guiding Principles provide a way for businesses to contribute to the 2030 Agenda and its 17 Sustainable Development Goals. For example, anti-discrimination policies at the workplace that boost gender equality and empower women in support of SDG 5. Monitoring and auditing of supply chains to eradicate forced labor. As a result, businesses create good work opportunities and support economic growth in support of SDG 8. As businesses set up grievance mechanisms and complaint systems to respect rights, they prevent disputes from turning into crises and conflicts, contributing to SDG 16. UNDP is focused on promoting the UN's guiding principles by providing technical advice to governments, developing policies, due diligence processes and remedies for businesses, and supporting civil society organizations and human rights defenders to improve accountability. UNDP is strengthening both businesses and human rights to promote a sustainable future.
My first priority as a Secretary General of the United Nations was to bring more women into leadership positions. On the 1st of January this year, we achieved gender parity, 90 women and 90 men in the ranks of full-time senior leadership, 2 years ahead the target date I set at the start of my tenure. And we have a roadmap in place to achieve parity at all levels in the years ahead. This long overdue change is an essential recognition of the equal rights and abilities of women's staff. And it is also about improving our efficiency and effectiveness for the people we serve. Dear friends and dear students, the opportunity of man-made problems, and I choose these words deliberately, is that they have human-led solutions. Thriving matriarchal societies throughout history and around the world show that patriarchy is not inevitable. We have recently seen women, many of them young, demanding transformational change. From Sudan to Chile to Lebanon, they are calling for freedom from violence, greater representation, and urgent climate action, and questioning economic systems that fail to deliver opportunities and fulfillment for many. We owe these young leaders our voices and our support. Gender equality is part of the DNA of the United Nations. The equal rights of women and men are included in the Charter, our founding document. And as we mark our 75th anniversary this year, along with the 25th anniversary of the Beijing Conference on Women, we are redoubling our efforts to support women's rights across the board. Last month, the United Nations launched a decade of action to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, the blueprint for our partnership with governments to build peaceful, prosperous and inclusive societies on a healthy planet. And gender equality is a goal in itself and key to achieving the other 16 goals. The decade of action is aimed at transforming institutions and structures, broadening inclusion and driving sustainability. Repealing laws that discriminate against women and girls, increasing protection against violence, closing the gap in girls' education and digital technology, guaranteeing full access to sexual and reproductive health services and rights, and ending the gender pay gap, are just some of the areas we are targeting. Women's equal leadership and participation are fundamental. That is why in the past I always supported quotas, the most effective way to achieve a radical shift in the balance of power. But now it's the time for gender parity in governments, parliaments, corporate boards and institutions everywhere.
Prime Minister Abe, Minister Koizumi, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I thank the government of Japan for convening this meeting to consider how to forge a sustainable recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, and Minister Koizumi for his hard work on climate. The decisions being taken now will have consequences for decades. This is why I have been urging governments to incorporate meaningful climate action in all aspects of recovery initiatives. I have proposed 6 climate-positive actions to recover better. Invest in green jobs, do not bail out polluting industries, end fossil fuel subsidies, take climate risks into account in all financial and policy decisions, work together, and most important, leave no one behind. Many countries and cities are now prioritizing green investments in their post-COVID recovery plans. Here in Japan, I welcome the announcements of 151 local entities representing 71 million people in support of carbon neutrality by 2050. This global shift towards climate action is gathering pace because leaders everywhere are realizing that clean energy delivers more jobs, cleaner air, better health, and stronger economic growth. The world's top investors, including some in Japan, are abandoning fossil fuels because renewables are cheaper and more efficient. Japan's business associations have also asked the government for decisive climate action. They understand that it makes no economic sense to burn money on coal plants that will soon become stranded assets. There is simply no rational case for coal power new investment. To meet the goals of the Paris Agreement, science tells us that global emissions need to be halved by 2030, and the world must achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. These goals remain achievable, but we are currently off track. I urge all countries, especially G20 members, to commit to carbon neutrality before 2050. And I ask them to submit more ambitious nationally determined contributions and long-term strategies before COP26 that are aligned with the 1.5 degree goal. Japan, which has led the way on technological development in many fields, can become a world leader on the sustainable and resilient recovery. The country has the innovative power to avoid being left behind as this transition gathers pace. I sincerely hope Japan will end external financing of coal power plants, commit to carbon neutrality before 2050, set an early phase-out transition for domestic coal use, and significantly increase the share of renewable energy. I also urge Japan and other donors to maintain their climate finance commitments and continue to support the most vulnerable. We are facing 2 critical crises: COVID and climate change. Let us tackle both and leave future generations with the hope that this moment is the true turning point for people and planet. I wish you a fruitful conversation that can inspire action in all countries and sectors. Thank you.
I have never seen so many people so animated around the Sustainable Development Goals as during the past 3 days. From the SDG Action Zone on our lawn to billboards in Times Square, the SDGs are everywhere as they should be. We started this journey together in 2015 and we know our destination. Opportunity for all on a healthy planet. In short, we have set our sights on a fair globalization. The good news is that the 2030 agenda is coming to life, and we are making progress. But let us be clear, we are far from where we need to be. We are off track. That is why today, as requested by our political declaration, I'm issuing a global call for a decade of action to deliver the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. Tout d'abord, l'action à l'échelle mondiale. Le temps est venu de prendre des décisions audacieuses, tant sur le plan individuel que collectif. Il nous faut davantage de ressources. En deuxième lieu, l'action locale. Nous devons faire davantage au niveau national afin d'obtenir des résultats là où cela importe le plus dans la vie des gens. Troisièmement, l'action individuelle. J'appelle la société civile, les associations locales, les médias, le secteur privé, les syndicats et les universités, entre autres, à plus que jamais travailler, mais main dans la main, vers des objectifs communs. We have the best solution in the Agenda 2030, our blueprint for a fair globalization. We must step up our efforts, and we must do it now.